Hey guys, welcome to Untier Talk, the show that used to have a consistent day, and now we kind of just do it whenever, so get used to that. Today we've got me, Hajad, and Specs is back, and PU just decided to quick ban four things, and we're going to talk about that and just the vote overall as like the perspective of three council members. Should be interesting enough.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yep, same.
So we actually didn't talk about the tier shift here because that didn't come time for the podcast. So tier shift happened. I guess if we have any initial, because also we didn't talk. Okay, so OU banned Arena Trap. Then the tier shift happened, and we also lost Ninjask, Wishy Washy, Clefairy, and Silvally Water, and we gained Arctozolt, but that's already been quick banned because fuck that thing. That's where we're at right now. That's a lot to go over. But I don't know. I feel like it's worth mentioning that the tier shift happened, but we've already talked plenty about the mons that left, except like Clefairy, Silvally Water, and Wishy Washies, like whatever. Trapinch and Ninjask we've talked about. And then those three mons just weren't particularly important, and you just happened to take them.
Yeah,
For sure. I feel like the only one that was like pretty close to being tested was Ninjask, but apart from that, I don't think the Fairy or the other ones were perilously close to NU anyway.
Yeah. I mean, losing Clefairy isn't nothing. We don't have many rockers, and it was very good, but it's not like a, it's just, oh, that happened.
Yeah, I liked it because we don't have a lot of like bulky special mons, like other than Throw, Rose,
Yeah,
and maybe like Type Null. So I kind of like
Togetic.
With that. Or Togetic. Yeah,
Togetic eats +2 Glaceon Ice Beams.
But yeah, I mean, I'll just cough a bit. It wasn't like insanely good, but
yeah,
we'll live.
Yeah, I think I will get onto this a bit later, but I think Clef leaving played a part in some of the bans, at least in my opinion, with some of the other Pokemon that we were testing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to look at that.
It definitely matters. So the thing that we got was Arctozolt. It's also the first thing on the sheet that we voted on. We can just go down. This was one we're all in agreement on. We all voted to ban Arctozolt, as did Akir, Teddy, and Tasker. Two times the tap and TJ abstained. I guess they hadn't played with enough, but that kind of surprised me because I know TJ's been playing. And then Sam I Ham voted for it to remain PU. He didn't actually talk in any of the council stuff, so I can't speak to why. Arctozolt just pretty much hit buttons and killed everything except for like itself, or maybe you mispredicted and they perfectly pivoted around you with like a seeking or something, and that's really it. Like we haven't had a wall breaker with 180 base power moves like this since Z moves left. It's stupid.
Yeah,
natural Bolt Beam as well.
It's kind of like it always had Z moves, and no other Pokemon have them. Like for those who play
just the electric Z move with stab Bolt Beam, like a Jad said.
Yeah.
Very good Pokemon. Yeah. Plus the Stomping Tantrum stuff with the Volt Absorb. Like I remember using was it Chinchu?
Yeah.
Someone in the council chat I think mentioned Chinchu. It said that you just Bolt Beacon it, and if it absorbs the Bolt Beak with Volt Absorb, Stomping Tantrum does double, and then you just die anyway.
Same with
that's stupid.
Lightning Rod Pincurchin can take one, but like it can't switch in if it's chipped. Same with Seeking. It does like 65 minimum to Seeking, I think. That definitely helps just mess with electric immunities even further. Or if you're using some rock ground, like we don't have. There's no Golem anymore. I guess it's Pupitar. Onyx, yeah. It could even freeze dry Onyx and Palpitoad, and I don't know, Ludicolo, I guess. Yeah, it's just such a dumb breaker because like Voltbeak only being that good if you're faster. First of all, if anything, if you're slower, I mean, first of all, if anything's faster, it's probably taking plenty from the half damage bolt beak. And second of all, that it doesn't. It only needs to hit slower mons because like that's what you're breaking. You're breaking fat because Mawile, because Masharna, even Gorgeist takes plenty from really offensive sets, and then you can icicle crash it. Like any slow fat things, like that's what it's hitting. There's like, it's just such a dumb breaker.
You could also bluff Scarf to force faster things out,
Mm-hmm.
like Persian and stuff like that. It was insane.
We should
consider. Yeah, also consider just this last thing that a lot of the vault immunities that we have in the tier, so things that you would compress as the electric would resist, so to speak, for an Arctazol. So stuff like Vibrava, Savali Ground. Think of any of those like classic vault immunities. Arctazol just crunches them with ice crash.
Yeah,
have no shot,
it's ground types. Stab Bolt Beam is crazy. Rotom Frost has been crazy in every gen of PU for this reason. We should also probably talk about it alongside Arctivish, which is like also incredibly stupid and problematic. In this case, there weren't any abstains, but actually 3 people wanted to stay PU, Sam I am, and then also TJ and 2 times the tap. But then the six of us still wanted it banned, the same 6. And like it mostly comes down to, for me, it's really just as silly. Like the fat defensive things, it just hits them up. Vicious Rend is like, there's not a lot of immunities, so it's slightly harder to play around in that respect. Like Arctazol, if you got every turn right, you could kind of play around it. Whereas Arctivish, there's like Ludicolo and Lapras in itself, and those are like the only things that can really take Vicious Rends at all. Maybe like really fat Leafeons or something, but like overall it's less strong because it doesn't have Bolt Beam coverage. Like it doesn't quite threaten things the same way, but I still think it's pretty much the same thing. It's just, oh, you have slow fat things, get everything right, or constantly prep for this beast.
Yeah, I think with Arctivish, at least in my experience, it feels like Arctazol, but Arctazol is more high risk, high reward. It's like, because like immunities exist for each of its, well, I mean, immunities exist for its main stat, Bolt Beak. Whereas Arctivish, you can't resist it outside of like water absorb or whatever. So it's lower risk in that regard because less stuff resists your main stat, but also lower reward, I think, because yeah, it's less like its natural stabs are less good than Arctazol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just constrained building a lot. I found, like, I've been a huge advocate for like Lapras and a bit of Palpitoad, but having to try to throw them on every team was kind of like bad. I don't know. They're not like as viable as like a Mawile.
Yeah.
Or something like in the top 10 usage. Like, I don't know. I didn't like what it brought to the tier.
I completely agree, and I think the people who didn't want to ban it, like TJ in particular, I think he was talking about like it's not that good, and like in a lot of games it doesn't look that good, whereas Arctazol looked crazy. But we've had a month like specifically knowing we have to prep for Arctivish, and here's all the way we handle it because it's really annoying. Whereas Arctazol was not like that. I still think Arctivish was like so massively constraining that even if it wasn't the same immediate problem in the same way, it needed to go. A lot of the Pokemon in this tier are insanely ridiculous wall breakers that just cannot be stopped. But I wanted to focus on the ones that in particular constrain teams the most, and I felt this one was much worse than, say, like the next Pokemon we get to on the list, Swoobat, which both you wanted to ban. I didn't. I'm the only one who didn't want to ban. No, I'm sorry. TJ and Sam I am also voted to not ban Swoobat. And for me, it comes down to like teams naturally have a bunch of Swoobat checks, and it kind of needs to try really hard to be stupid. And I just didn't think that like the setup was unreasonable to handle for it. I feel like it just didn't constrain teams enough, even though it would be a really dumb sweeper if you got it going properly because it's really, really good. Um, but now you guys can just like start doing what we've done for the other ones, where like here's all the reasons why I hate this thing.
Yeah, for me, I think it's the simple electric seed and the simple like Salakberry, all that really fast setupy type of thing. It's really good at causing or like creating inconsistency in like straight up offense terms, right? When you set up a Subat, it's sort of like asking a question about your opponent or your own team. It's like, do I have enough priority to take on Subat? If you do, then you win. If you don't, then you lose. And then that for me is like a thing where, okay, well, it's not necessarily constraining my building from the fact that, oh, I need to have X and Y resist. It's constraining that I have to have certain moves, and then that creates a bit of inconsistency when you know you have to be hitting fake outs and feints and whatever to make sure that this thing doesn't get too much of a head. And then even then, like even when you do have all those things, you can play electric seed plus the is it electric seed and electric terrain.
Electric seed under electric terrain, yeah.
Yeah, and it gets that +2 defense, and then suddenly fake out plus E speed from Pikachu, fake out plus feint from Persian. None of that matters anymore either. So yeah, I mean, if you focus too heavily on priority, you're screwed that way. If you focus too heavily on speed control, like pure speed control, you also get screwed in other ways as well. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
yeah, it's
where it constrained is not just the moves that you need, but also when you play a game versus swoop at, you're immediately like, here's the things I have to preserve. And unlike other very strong bonds, it really is just like, oh yeah, this is going to absolutely sweep, or I'm going to preserve this thing and never risk it, never switch it in. To like a shocking degree because of how specific Swoobat checks are compared to anything else. If that if that makes sense. And I definitely acknowledge in that way it's very silly.
Also, you cannot play passively around Swoobat. There's no way that you can just toxic it, for example, and then just sort of say, okay, I can just forget about this for the next 3 or 4 turns and switch around and stuff. You can't do that. Like as soon as it gets a Carmine going, plus like whether it's Berry or Seed going, whatever, stored power is better than Psychic. So there's no stopping it at that point.
Yeah, to me the E seed set, as soon as it got to the point to where that was more popular, I think that's when I kind of jumped a fence and I was like, okay, I think that this thing could be more of a problem. Because before Persian and all the other priority users, they could kind of get around it in that way. But the +2 defense really started to limit the amount of things that you can throw on a team and be okay against the E seed set. Be able to switch into it and take a hit, attack it.
For sure.
Yeah, again, I just didn't like what it brought to the tier. I think that there were too little.
Yeah, and I'm not really upset that it's gone. It's not a. It wasn't really contributing any big positive things to the tier either. It's not like, oh, we're missing AV Hirayama now. It really just was like E-Seed stuff, or like occasionally maybe a Salic set, maybe a regular Nasty Plot set, but who's even doing that? So not super upset. I think that pretty much covers Subat. So the next thing that comes down the list is Throw. This is something that only 2 times the tab wanted to ban. It was 1 to 8 in terms of just keeping it in PU. Throw is definitely a massive issue. I would not be shocked if we banned it a couple weeks down the road, but right now we're focusing on all these like ridiculously powerful things that are just like so impossible to stop, and Throw's like uncounterable but not in the same way. Like Arctozolt just doesn't have counters. Throw is like, maybe I'll be running different sets and it'll beat the counter, but maybe it won't, and even then there tends to be a lot of room to play around it. Whereas, something like Arctozolt, there's really not much room to do anything, I guess. And Throw
I
also
think
does have some counters. Fat BKM and Misharna and Gorgeist and that kind of stuff.
yeah, I think it kind of has the Mawile effect where the defensive sets have so much value at the moment to where the offensive sets aren't seen enough to where I thought it should be gone. Maybe I just haven't seen enough of them, but if the offensive sets start getting better, I think that maybe that could.
I don't think the offensive sets are going to change a ton, to be honest. It doesn't. It's not crazy strong without Choice Band or Flame Orb, and those both have instant, immediate negative effects that are like give it a lot of room to be played around.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Like, I didn't find the defensive sets to be that hard to counter. It could just be my building, but I also found that the defensive sets are very important at the moment. That I really didn't want to get rid of them. It's really nice to have like a fat thing that can phase at the moment.
I think part of what balanced Throw in that in terms of the defensive aspect is that we had so many broken things that could just come in and instantly check it. So, Swibat, Silvally Normal, which we'll get onto, and the other stuff, all of which that could, hit it on its weaker Fizz Def side. Really powerful mons, really high damage output, and really easily, or not easily, but, could really check Throws up in its tracks. I think, even though offensive set, they're very good, and they will undoubtedly become more of a problem in the future. I think you require the same amount of throw. Like, you still require, if we ban throw, for example, you still have to use the same psychic types and ghost types like Gorgeist, and in order to check Grab Locked and Machoke and those types of mons, then you do have to use for throw. So in terms of a team building perspective, throw doesn't really limit the builder that much more than what we already have in the tier. So in my eyes at least, sure, it might be unkillable soon because we're banning a lot of our high damage output Pokemon. In which case we'll have to look at banning it again. But currently, I think it's good to have it in the tier.
Yeah, if it was broken offensively, the defensive stuff wouldn't make me keep it. But it is definitely a fact that if I just pivot in my Arctozolt, Throw's not as scary. Because we have Dumb Breakers. Speaking of Dumb Breakers that check Throw, the next mon is Noctowl, which Hajad and I both very strongly wanted banned, as did TJ. Akir abstained, and then 2 times the tap, Teddy, Tasker, Specs, and Sam all voted against it. Specs, you can start off with why you were okay with Noctowl before Hajad and I start going into that.
It's just not on like the top of the priority list as far as what I think has been bad for the tier. I acknowledge that Noctowl absolutely 2 KOs most of the tier, but I think you give up a lot with the offensive sets as far as being able to get in. And yeah, I don't know. I think maybe with losing Clef, we could see Noctowl will just rise up a ton as far as like spec sets having the more immediate power. But I don't know. I don't really see it as much as maybe you guys do. Would you be able to explain why you guys think it's dumb?
Do you want to start, or shall I?
I'll go. I think the thing with Noctowl that I don't like about it is that it forces to using very certain resists. I think the thing that we achieved quite well, I think, in SMPU is that if you wanted a fire resist, you could blanket check most fire Pokemon in the tier.
Why did you choose fire of all the types? The one type that's not true for. That's the one thing that it's not true for is fire resists. With the diversity of Simisear and Turtonator and all, literally the one.
Okay, maybe fire was the wrong type.
Water resists, ground resists, psychic resists.
Yeah, basically things to check the majority of the time. Sure, you'd have outliers like semi-serum, whatever, that could still break through natural fire resists, but that was limited for balance reasons. And I feel like Noctowl does a lot of that. Okay, well, flying resists don't apply to me, therefore you need to run this specific AV thing that doesn't really make sense just for me, and if you don't, you lose. Or you lose a Pokemon every time I can get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the big thing.
I don't think Noctowl has real risk reward. When you face a Noctowl, it could be sub Nasty Plot, it could be choice specs, it could just be a fat defog set, which is very good considering the defoggers we have in the tier. It could also be an agility set. It could be something else I haven't even thought of. It could, I don't know, throat spray hyper voice. It gets Nasty Plot. Why would you do that? I don't know. Point is, like, there is so much danger in facing a Noctowl, and so few things that can counter or think about checking it. Like any defensive switch in, if it's Nasty Plot, you're kind of messed up, even if it can take on the spec set like Togetic can or something. If you want to offensively check it and it's agility, that's a real big issue. Like, it can kind of just do whatever, and we don't really have stops to it. And the best checks aren't that good. Like, Clang is not very good. Togetic is not very good. Type Null is pretty much the best thing you can say. Thank God there's no Z moves. I don't know what you're supposed to do about Noctowl. It will just do whatever, and I think the thing that's keeping it balanced from people is that they're just like not getting swept by enough of them yet because they're not seeing enough like proper Noctowl usage. But I'm like so convinced that as soon as anyone uses it on a decent team, it'll become really obvious. I was just like, no, we should get rid of it now. Because you really haven't seen a lot of Noctowl with what people are playing with right now. But I think he's just so stupid and so good that I'm willing to remove a good hazard remover, which we really need.
Yeah, add on to that also with Noctowl, just generally this like pest in general, I took the perspective that we can afford to be kind of liberal with the bans, right? We can afford to say, okay, well, I don't think Noctowl will be a problem, or I think Noctowl will be a problem, and I think it'll be worth banning it instantly, and then we can look at it in the future, suddenly get an influx of massive Spadefuls and Clefairy-esque Pokemon. But I think a lot of people decided it's still, I guess, necessary to keep it in the tier for those reasons.
Yeah, people I think were pretty conservative overall, which honestly is fine because I don't think it makes a ton of difference to the tier in that everything is broken in PU. Even like we voted on a ton of broken mons. Some of them, like, no one wanted to ban Ludicolo or Stonejourner. Those are objectively stupid Pokemon that are ridiculously good and kill everything. And then the things we didn't vote on, you've got like Lapras, you've got Pikachu, you've got other Silvally forms, you've got Leafeon. You like so many things are so strong and crazy that if we're leaving in Noctowl for a little while longer, I don't think it does a lot of difference. Developing this tier is just going to be a very weird balancing act of managing that. Everything is broken, managing that fact, and like maybe we do. Maybe we keep it a fun meta. I think that's totally possible. Maybe we can't until there's massive shifts or DLC or whatever. But yeah, I don't think it makes a huge difference to development. So I get that.
Yeah. My reasoning wasn't like the greatest, and you mentioned that maybe we just haven't faced enough of them. I think that could be a point. Like, there's so much at the moment, it's hard to really remember how much I faced something or how many times a Noctowl was just 2 KO'd my whole team.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be clear, that's also not entirely on you. If no one's using the mon in a broken way, it's hard to say, oh, it's broken, I'm going to ban it. Like, that's not bad reasoning on your part at all.
Yeah.
Also consider that for of the time during this, I guess, meta whilst existed, I've been raging relentlessly about Trapinch, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't even get to vote on Trapinch, so Like a
No, well
lot of
that would have been
problems in the tier.
unanimous
Yeah,
ban for sure.
yeah. So a lot of the problems in the tier get solved even before we get to vote on it. So yeah, I feel like well, yeah, rightfully wondering like we don't need to change too much. We got rid of a really important thing. Maybe it's just worth banning a few things.
Yeah, I think we looked at I think we dealt with a lot of the like blatant, really huge problems, and we can kind of go into the second slate
Mm.
in
We'll see. If
a
you don't
little
mind
bit more
me,
chill.
if you don't mind me skipping over Ludicolo briefly, we didn't ban Type Null, and I was one of the people who voted. You two were the only bans everyone voted against banning, and I think it's a great example of A, we're leaving stuff in that's pretty crazy, and who knows if that's true, and also B, a great example of if people aren't really using this mod in a broken way, if it's not doing crazy things, it's hard to justify a ban vote. I think Type Null is kind of crazy. It's by far the most bulky thing around. Pretty much all of our best breakers and boosting mons are physical, so iron defense sets like just outlast everything. It can, bulk up with iron defense, it can sword stance, it can U-turn pivot and just like be fat if it wants to. I think Type Null is incredibly silly, but I still couldn't vote to ban it because it's just not doing a lot. It was getting pressured by a lot of Arctizolt and Arctivish. There's tons of knockoff and Rocky Helmet and entry hazards and other chip for it right now. There's a lot of Gorgeist running around too because of Arctizolt and Arctivish. So like this is a great example of why who knows if that's true. And I also think like of all the mons that we didn't get rid of, Type Null benefits massively from the bans here. Um, all three of these things, all four of these things that we banned are things that like could definitely mess it up and put a lot more pressure than most things in the tier because how ridiculously strong they were. Um, so I think Type Null is probably the best bet for like thing that benefited so much that it has to go next.
Yeah, if you face the wrong set and like you don't have the counterplay to there's just not a lot that stops it at the moment. And I think we saw that in the tour, the Alpha tour, a lot. Now that meta is a bit outdated because there was trap punch and all that, but still, like if throw is unkillable, I don't even know what to call Type Null. Like there's a lot of knockoff going around, but a lot of times it just doesn't even need it if you're iron defense. Like it's one of the most dangerous mons. Not as dangerous as Swoobat, but yeah, I don't like facing it at all.
Yeah. I think I'd probably say Type Null was the closest thing to like me thinking, oh, I this is something that I'm torn on because in theory it's not that. In theory, at least, it's not that difficult to stop a Type Null. But in practice, from what I've found, is that in order to pressure it consistently well, it's basically a massive juggling act of, okay, what am I doing now? Am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm doing supposed to happen? Or, it's like a massive juggling act in that sense. It's difficult to play around. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing.
I don't blame either of you guys for voting ban. It's a mon. It's such a silly mon. Why did they make it? We already had Chansey and Porygon 2 and Snorlax and Jesus, what they always want these dumb fat knolls like Miltank. We put in double this gen. We don't.
I really hope we don't get to Bull.
It's quite good in NU from what I hear.
Good.
Although who knows once DLC and a lot of things change. Yeah, that's Type Null. Very briefly, I did skip over Ludicolo going down the list. It was unanimous that it should stay in PU. It's a very, very good mon, but like it's just not a big problem right now. Mostly because the meta is dominated by other shit. Oh, Behem, that's the other thing I wanted to say that's like so stupid right now. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, yeah, Ludicolo, no one wanted to ban it. And then the thing after Type Null, no one wanted to ban Stone Journer either, because again, we've talked about before, incredibly good mon, but like just not the issue right now.
Yeah, it's so close to becoming an issue though. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I could see us.
Rock polish
actually,
sets are crazy.
oh my god, like Life Orb, the ability to mix up your attacks. Like Scarf is really good because you're at speed.
Scarf is good. Scarf is incredible, but it's pretty balanced. Like you just, oh, I need a revenge killer, so I'll run Scarf because it like has Heat Crash that hits everything neutrally really well, and then there's Stone Edge if I want to be risky. Like Scarf's good. Band is like, oh, I want to kill everything, but then like you start mixing in Rock Polish and Wonder Room and Life Orb sets, and it's like, oh my god. But even that, it's just not the problem because we've been dealing with fucking Arctizolts that.
Yeah.
Which just bolt beaks everything. It's not even a question. Stone Churner has to actually like try. Okay.
You need 1 ounce of brain power.
Yeah. So then the last things we voted on were 3 different Silvalis. I think maybe we should talk about the one that got banned first, which is Silvally Normal. Hijad, you've been quiet. You want to take Silvally Normal?
Yeah, well, not really, because there's not much to say. I mean, it's a thing that has ridiculous normal stab, and then it also has all the coverage moves to beat the things that beat the normal stab, so bang.
Yep. Yeah. Imagine if we only had 3 good normal resists in the tier. They all had much better Fizz Def than Spadef, and Silvally Normal happened to get Ice Beam, Flamethrower, and Surf, which hit all of them super effectively. And then all you're left with is fucking Clang, which is not good. Which is it's not good. Oh, I'm sorry. This also Carcol, but that falls under the same thing with Surf. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me at least with Silvally Normal, it was the mix. It wasn't necessarily the crazy wall breaking power. You could make an argument for the crazy wall breaking power. But the thing that made the big difference for me is the mixture between the wall breaking power, like the out and out damage output, the speed, which is unparalleled in the tier in terms of like a breaker, immediate power with that much speed, and then also the bulk. Like, when have we ever had a breaker in PU or in and around that this area of Pokemon where you have everything. You have speed, power, and coverage and everything.
While not as devastatingly strong as Arctizolt / Arctivish, or as problematic of a sweeper as Swoobat, the combination of being bulky, fast, powerful, and very versatile all at once pushes it past a tier where most Pokemon excel at only 2 to 3 of these characteristics. That's the band reasoning I wrote for this like an hour ago. Literally,
okay.
Yeah.
So that's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you read my post, it's literally the same thing because everyone was on the same page. Actually, no. Teddy voted to keep it PU. I didn't remember him doing that. Huh.
I would also like to mention that we have very limited ghost types, and the couple good ones, the Gourgeist or the Gourgeist, whichever one is used, gets hit by fire. So you can't even be immune for the most part. So
yeah, then there's some bad ghost types. There's Shedinja gimmicks. There's Dracloak and Dusclops and Ghastly and Dust. It's not a lot. There's just so little to do about this. Also, it can U-turn on everything or Parting Shot on everything. And Parting Shot, wow, is that really good in this meta? Parting Shot is so good because there's all these incredibly devastating breakers that just want to come in. So you just Parting Shot out to Noctowl, Behem, the Arctos.
Yeah. And you force everything out.
Yeah. So then there's 2 other Silvalis that we voted on. Ground and Fire, which are basically also the best ones because they're the best offensive types and they just murder constantly. Like, multi-attack is so good now that it's 120 base power and then you have stab. And Ground and Fire are the best moves to have a 0 drawbacks, 120 base power. It's stronger than Earthquake. It's the same power as Flare Blitz but without recoil. Anyway, they did not get banned. Hajad and I wanted to ban both. you wanted to ban neither. Silvally Ground was actually 5-4 to ban, but we needed a 2/3 majority with 6 votes to ban it, so it stays. And Silvally Fire was only 3 ban votes. Specs, you want to talk about why you didn't think those were as big of a problem as Silvally Normal?
Yeah, so Volley Fire, I'll just get out that I didn't see it a lot, and I didn't see it a lot in like the tournament that we had. Um, I just didn't see it be that much better than like say a Savali normal. Um, and as much as we don't have a lot of fire resist, I I did run a lot of like Savali water and dragon. Um, so those were always in my builder. But yeah, it was more of I didn't see it a lot, so maybe I had different experiences. So Volley
Well,
ground,
yeah,
yeah,
the reason
okay,
you didn't see it a lot. The reason you didn't see it a lot is because you freeze dried my freaking Silvally Fire when I switched to Palpitoad. That's why you didn't see it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the most
Because
obvious.
everybody had
choice.
that in their head. That was the most obvious switch in history, but you still predicted it. I was
Okay,
so
yeah.
mad.
The thing about Silvally Fire is in a meta where our 2 best water types by far are also ice types, and then like every other fire resist it has good coverage for the same exact way as Silvally Normal. It's pretty silly. It's less silly because it's weak to rocks at least. That's like the big mitigating factor, and also it doesn't really want to run flame charge and multi attack, so it didn't really do that stuff. And also you just saw less of it, which is why I think it got half the ban votes. But it's pretty devastating. And then you have Silvally Ground.
Consider this.
Oh no.
Consider this before we move on to
Yeah. Yeah.
before we go to Silvally Ground. Our water types that weren't Lapras and Arctivish in the tip were Silvally Water and Wishy Washy. Both of them are left now.
Palpitoad and Marini.
Okay, yeah, sure, we can use those. I'm sure.
No, we can't use those. No one wants to use those. And
Well, yeah, that's the thing that we have to consider now is that also our main water types, the things that we can reliably check Silvally Fire with, are now all NU now. So it's like
yeah,
how
well
do you
don't
consider
don't
those?
forget rock types. There's Stonejourner and Carkol, the famously not weak to surf Pokemon, and there's Solrock, the famously not weak to U-turn Pokemon.
So Volley Rock, come on.
So Rock is actually like all of the crappy Silvally types. They're actually all
Yeah, like all Silvallis could definitely end up being broken.
They could.
Hmm.
But yeah, so Volley ground, I really liked what it did in the tier defensively, and it's another one of those. I think it's an important mon at the moment. I could easily see it turn the tides and become stupid if it's not already stupid. But yeah, I just like it in the tier at the moment. I don't think that it crossed that line that Savali normal did with
You can't switch into it. It does everything you want it to always, and you can't switch into it again. Like
you can sort of switch into it. You can use Gorgai Super and Shiinotic and those Pokemon.
You can use yeah, okay, there's 2 to 3 like real fat things that are incredibly easy. Like if U-turns or parting shots, we have plenty of wall breakers that abuse them incredibly well. And then even then, if they're chipped a little bit and they switch into an ice beam, that's the ball game right there. Like it's just so strong at everything it does, and multi attack hits so good.
Yeah, I think the thing why I voted ban personally is that it combined too well, in my opinion, the ability to have a good defensive Pokemon and ridiculous wall breaking power all in one, which is a common theme throughout the Silvadis, to be honest. But the fact that it can check so much of the tier, so much defensive work, but also be so incredibly powerful as a breaker, it's ridiculous. And also, now that I come to think about it, the inconsistency that the tier has like put in it, or has a lot of, but all of that is caused by loads of things being ridiculous breakers when really they shouldn't. You know, a lot of things that should have risk reward not really having anything, like not having a downside really.
God,
I think
we didn't even mention Mawile in terms of like strong no downside risk reward mons. There's so many.
yeah, there's loads of things don't really have a downside to using them, and I feel as not to go back again on SMP, but a lot of the things that we had in that tip just didn't really or had a lot of downsides. Like if you wanted to use a Mudsdale, like yeah, sure, that's a fantastic physically defensive Pokemon, and there's so many things for your team, but my goodness, have we seen it being abused in the past, and I'm sure we'll continue to see it be abused in the future. So, like, there's loads of there's that balance that we have to strike between having a good Pokemon, sure, and but also making sure that the necessary risk exist for it to exist healthily.
Yeah.
That was a good explanation.
Any last thoughts on this list of shit that we voted on? Yeah, okay, that was pretty comprehensive. So that's it for the bans. Obviously, like I talked about, BKM, Mawile, Stonejourner, Pikachu, Lapras. I'm not gonna. We can't list all the things that like we gotta look at right now. Not to mention the stuff we already voted on. So it's gonna be a bit of a crazy time in the upcoming weeks of PU. We're gonna have a real kickoff tour, and then, oh god, I guess the next big thing coming up is this like the PUPL plus Slam time that happens. So it'll be fun times. But to get you through experimenting in this new PU beta meta, I think we gotta shoot over to Hajad's Gimmick Corner.
Hello, friends. We are now in the Gimmick Corner, and as we all know, I've been playing a lot of PU this last week.
Well, wait, because I'm sure Specs and I can also drop sets. Aren't you? You're supposed to go last, right? Isn't that how we do it?
What did I post?
Well, if all three of us are giving sets, you always go last, right? Because you like to end out the video.
Yeah, go for it then.
You can go first, Mike. Sorry.
Sure. Okay. BKM is really, really good, and I keep talking it up. I don't really see anyone else using it. I like full physically defensive, which struggled a bit like when we initially had Arctozolt and Arctovish because like nothing walls those, but otherwise it's really good and fat. It's hard to pressure. It can like tank hits from Silvali's where you need to. It's a great throw stop where we have very few of these. Obviously, like if it rests and then guts knocks you off, there's not much you can do but like throw stupid. But it's really good and fat, and it gets teleport, and that's kind of the key. You can also go full Spadef, and while most special attackers, the only downside is you're still not that amazing versus Noctowl. But it was like a surprisingly good Swoobat stop. Yeah, I think defensive teleport BM is nice. It's not Clefairy because being immune to entry hazards would just like make this ridiculous. But hitting so hard with analytic psychics, despite zero investment, is a big selling point as well. So yeah, that's my thing.
I like it. Yeah, teleport is an insane move.
-6 priority pivoting. Let's go.
It's everything you could ever want.
I can finally use Abra.
Okay, so we talked shit about Togetic a bit, but I think Nasty Plot has an actual niche.
Ancient Power Nasty Plot.
No. It's Tri-Attack.
I'm sorry, Tri-Attack what?
Tri-Attack Togetic.
Oh, Togetic. With Serene Grace.
Yeah, with Serene Grace.
Was that
now, if you like inconsistency in a tier, you'll love this.
Well, as long as it's fat, it's fine.
Oh, it's extremely fat. I don't even have a stab move on it. It's Tri-Attack Flamethrower. Because you beat all the fighting types anyways. You don't even need to hit them.
Yeah, sure, why not? What is it, 40%? 40% for a status thing?
I don't even know, but it's around that, because I was getting it a lot the other day. I'm freezing
Let me have a look. it's 20% to paralyze, burn, or freeze,
So-
and it's 40% to paralyze, burn, or freeze. It's the ring race. Interesting. That's actually a good shout.
God, I thought Effect Spore was stupid and broken. Which
Yeah.
it is. Effect Spore is a fundamentally broken ability. What, you want to hit a move? Idiot.
Good one.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I think Togetic will make waves. I don't think it's going to be a D rank Pokemon this gen. Interesting.
No, it's so hard to kill. I can't see it being.
Like I said, I was playing TJ and it lived a +2 Glaceon Ice Beam. No boosting item, but still, like, jeez. Okay. Oh my! Chad, what time is it for you? Is it almost 4 a.m.?
3.
Almost 3 a.m. Oh my god! You should give your set and like get some sleep, dude. What?
Yeah, it's not too bad for me. I think, especially with the whole Corona thing and quarantine and whatever. It's like having a dirty sleep schedule is not too much of a deal, but yeah, it's still quite poor. Should I go on to my gimmick?
Yes, please.
So, do you guys know of a broken, like, maybe some of the broken abilities that you've come across whilst you've been playing Pokemon? Because you're both quite experienced Pokemon players, so you should know a few abilities.
Well, this Effect Spore.
Yeah,
There's also huge power,
Neutral's pretty
pure
good.
power, prism armor,
Yeah,
Speed
that's pretty
boost.
dark aura,
Yeah. Those are pretty good moves.
Delta Stream.
I've completed. What does Delta Stream do?
That's Mega Rayquazas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, also Magic Bounce, of course.
Oh yeah, Magic Bounce.
Oh, and
yeah, could forget about
and
Gorilla.
Shadow Multi-Scale and Shadow Shield. Those are pretty dumb.
Yeah, those are
Levitate, when you
abilities.
think
I
about it, Levitate's pretty silly.
lots of things get Levitate, so I
It
think
just feels
that's a
less
good
silly.
shout as well.
Like, we're used to it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna name you the second best ability of all time, apart from Magic Bounce, of course, because that's the first best ability. The second best ability is actually called Ice Scales, which means that this Pokemon receives half damage from special attacks. And would you like to know the distribution of Pokemon that get this brilliant ability called Ice Scales?
To my knowledge, it's in the tier of PU. The only legal one would be Snom, the Pokemon with the lowest base stat total in the game, aside from base form Wishy-Washy. Before you factor in Ice Scales doubling a stat, of course.
Can we just end the show?
Well,
Also, this fur coat, you idiot. We had fur coat Persian, and for years, and then Furfru before that. Oh my god.
well, I mean, this is special. This is not physical. I mean, in the physical side, we have helmets and there are loads of intimidating.
Also, what about Guerrilla Tactics? What about Darmanitan Jr.?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I mean, nah, Ice Scales is better. Continue. I think Assault Vest Snom actually has a huge place in this tier. You can run Miracle and just kill everything, and I think that's the end of the game. You can Powder Snow as well, potentially freeze something. I think it's a pretty decent Pokemon overall. And yeah, I generally don't see what kills it on the special side of these. It can really meta check the tier and check Glaceon and all those types of Pokemon just on the special side, which is cool.
Modest Life Orb, non-analytic BEM Psychic does 70 to 82 to Max Spadef Assault Vest Snom.
With Ice Scales?
Oh, not with Ice Scales. It does 35 to 41. Yeah, I was like, there's no way it's that. Yeah, okay. It does less than half.
Very good.
Let's try Noctowl Specs Hurricane.
I bet it lives.
Modest Specs Noctowl Hurricane versus Max Spadef Assault Vest Ice Scale Snom does 77 to 91.
See, best Pokemon of the game.
Of course, you do always have to keep hazards off in this fucking tier, so.
Yeah, but I mean, you have Hatcham in the tier, which has the broken Magic Bounce, so it makes the broken double ability core I guess, Snom and Hatrim.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's I think it's going to be underrated, potentially in the B ranks, maybe even we can sneak into A minus. But yeah, it's also cute as fuck as well, so we can go for that.
Wow,
Finally,
you take a top wall breaker like say Basculin, and it's not look so good. It's Life Orb Ice Beam only to 6 to 7, and Basculin's practically unwallable, so that's really impressive.
oh god, um, yeah, I mean, Snom, use that thing. But I do actually have an actual thing, and if I can find the calc for it, that would also be great. But actually, I came across this just sort of after Arctivish got banned, and I was thinking, okay, well, what's the thing people are gonna just immediately like? Oh, I had an Arctivish, but Arctivish is gone now. So
Basculin, I just said it.
you said Basculin, but I think it's gonna be Beartic, to be honest, because it's more of a resemblance. It has more resemblance, and so I was looking into a few sets that Beartic can run, and honestly, a sub bulk up set could do a lot of work in this meta. Especially like a max HP, max speed, just sub bulk up. I think you managed to tank Mawil's play rough
Yeah,
through sub.
and no one's running
So
Ironhead. That actually,
exactly.
I don't know. That sounds great, but at least like counter teams with Mawile, which are like 80% of teams, and like immediately get massive benefits. That's
Exactly.
we should have
Consider
banned
also
Silvally Fire. Then it'd really be going off.
exactly, yeah. And then plus when you have Beartic in like that area where most people will be running Silvally Ground still because look, it just got suspect tested and it can do a lot for your team. You can abuse that just as well. So
Lockjaw just
so
asked in the PU room, tell me a cool Arctivish substitute, and people named Lapras and Basculin. I just dropped Beartic for you, so there you go.
okay, sweet.
Spreading the word.
Awesome. This is good propaganda. So Snom, Beartic, I think those are the
Snob.
I think those are the things that we should be considering in this team.
Man, my Togetic's gonna have to worry now.
Okay.
Oh yeah, your Togetic is going to get absolutely
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for sticking around for this week. I don't know what our upload schedule is going to be like, but we're going to keep doing the thing at some point. Probably weekly.
Weekly-ish.
Probably weekly, just like the day that it comes out in the week. That's who knows. Thanks Specs for showing up. Go sub to Specs' channel, and
Yeah.
that's all we got for you for this week. Tune in some point for something.